Welcome to the Jobs and Work podcast. If you're like most Americans, you spend a significant amount of your time working. In fact, we spend more time at our jobs than anywhere else. But how often do we really talk about work in America? On this podcast, the Work for Change team will. Work for Change, LLC is a team of social scientists, thought leaders, and digital storytellers who dig into the critical issues affecting American workers and workplaces today. Our podcast is co-hosted by Dr. Kendra Jason and myself, Dr. Kris Maycumber. We'll also bring guests onto the show who reflect the diversity of the American workforce. We are so excited for you to join us as we lead the efforts to humanize the workplace by building dignity and equity into jobs, work, and organizations. Please subscribe to the podcast and share us with your friends and family. You can learn more about Work for Change at workforchangellc.com. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Jobs and Work podcast. This is where we talk about all things related to jobs and work. This is episode number 24, and I am your co-host, Kris Maycumber.
And I'm co-host Kendra Jason. And today we are going to talk about and celebrate 6 months of business and with Work for Change. We launched January 15th, 2021. And so we've done a lot of work. Some things expected, some things unexpected. And so Kris and I are going to talk about that today. So we appreciate you sharing in this moment of reflection and celebration with us.
Yeah, we wanted to just sort of talk to each other about what that's been like and share with you all this last 6 months and what's coming for our next 6 months as well. So Kendra, I wanted to start with asking you a question about now that you think back from, to January to where we are now in July, you could point to what has been helpful for helping launch this business. Like what are some supports or some things that have been helpful that you can kind of say, we are where we are and here's why?
Oh, it's several things. So the first thing I'll say is consistency. So one thing that I picked up on as I was watching other small businesses grow is that the ones that seem to me to be the most successful or the ones who stuck to my memory are the ones who were consistent in their messaging. And so one thing that I was really committed to doing is social media posts, content posts, Monday through Friday, once a day. And now we do it twice a day just to get that message out consistently. And we have not missed a day of messaging. So I think that's been really, really important because even on social media, one thing that I learned is that you can't look at how many likes, shares, and comments that you get to measure your support, because that consistent message is what you need and what you bank on. That's your investment. So even if people don't like or share or comment on your social media posts or your advertising regularly, that does not mean that messaging is not getting across and that, Work for Change is not etched in their mind in some way. So that consistency in messaging is really important. The second thing I say is having a partner, having someone, my partner is Kris, of course, but someone who I can share my ideas with, brainstorm with, share excitements, strategize is always great. And I know everyone doesn't have a official business partner or unofficial business partner. You may have a friend or you may not have anyone. You may be sort of a silo, but what has worked for me is definitely having Kris in my corner. Kris is my right-hand person to always, help me push things forward and to give me room to share the workload. So having a partner. And I think the other thing is just not putting myself in a box as far as what Work for Change is and represents. And so one thing Kris and I were very strategic about before we launched in January is really figuring out how to narrow the services that we wanted to provide, because we could do a lot of things between the experiences that both of us have professionally. But we were like, we don't want to kitchen sink it. We don't want to, we want to be specialized. We want to be focused. We want to have a few services, which we started out with 4, and then branch out if necessary or as necessary. Mm-hmm. And so we stuck to that. But even in doing that, there are it's almost like those services are the tree, but then that tree has branches, and the branches has leaves. Yep. So even in sticking to something narrow, there's still room for creativity and innovation, and there's still room to be visionary without pulling yourself in 50 million directions. So I think those are sort of like the main tenets that I have, that I could recognize as sort of like our success model so far.
Yeah, I love that, Kendra. Like consistency, a good partnership, and then a vision that's focused but open. And I think that is really our sort of brand, is that we have a vision. It's very focused from day one. It's been focused. We know what we want to do. We know how we want to do it, but we're also open to letting the business grow in the directions of those branches and those leaves and the clients who call us and contact us and their needs, and, to your point about partnership, I think that's something that a lot of people that I've talked to who wanted to start their own business or who have started one are struggling with, is finding someone. And I like the way that you said it can be official business partner, unofficial, someone who you can work with, bounce ideas off, whether they're tangibly involved or just, in that sort of social support. So, and I think and I think back to what I can see is helpful as well. And I would say those same things, like that consistent messaging, and how it has been, like you said, people don't always like and subscribe or, do all those things. But when I run into people, they say all the time, oh, your social media, I watch your podcast. So it's out there. They don't necessarily like market that they're out there, but it is. So it's really exciting. For me, the support has been fantastic from other people, like family and friends want to see the business successful.
Yes.
That I think is something that has kind of like fed itself, is like people want you to thrive and want you to do well and be happy and successful.
Yeah.
So what are you most proud of, Kendra? Like if you could say in this 6 months, what are some things that you look back at Work for Change and, say that you are really proud of?
It's funny because what I'm most proud of is wasn't even in my business plan.
Really?
And of course, that's the starting your own business angle of Work for Change. And so, again, Kris and I started a consulting agency. We targeted, corporations, nonprofits, institutions, large and small. We want to do workplace consulting and, equity, dignity, all that great stuff, and that was our model. And that was, all of our year, we did a full year of planning before we launched was in that model in our business plan. And then I forgot, maybe it was right before we launched, I was like,
you did.
Yeah, I was like, I want to do a workshop on starting a business, and I was like, I know some people who might be interested, and we put the workshop together. The first workshop was amazing.
Oh, so good.
Amazing talent in there. And I was like, I can't let this go. The feeling that I get from, helping people go to the next step, putting light in that black box of what starting a business is, helping people really dig deep and self-reflect on what are the things in their personal lives that's preventing them, but also helping them. What do they already have in their toolbox or, in their back pocket to be successful? And of course, like watching those light bulbs go off and, having people walk those things out. And so we continuously offer our Start Your Own Business workshop. And, that's what I'm most proud of. And I guess it's not the fact that we have the Start Your Own Business workshop. It's the fact I'm proud of, those people who have, number one, trusted us, you know, to is, you know, it's a very vulnerable thing. It's easy to go out there and say, I'm going to apply for a job at such and such company, and then, you know, you get or you don't get the job, but it's pretty much an easy process. You know what to do. But when it comes to starting your own business, it's so out of the norm of conversation, of culture, of support that we traditionally know, especially most of, you know, Kris and I, our social networks are working class families because we are from working class families, right? So starting your own business isn't necessarily, you know, in the forefront of like family plans. So anyway, that's where I get the most passion, the most joy. Even like, you know, Swan's Design, support, identifying and supporting small business owners, any chance that I get, has been very, very rewarding. So I'm very proud to be a part of that process for those individuals, and that for me, it's a staple of our business as well, that we are genuinely concerned and genuinely support people who want to start their own businesses.
You know, Kendra, I love that too, because I would have to say that that is the unexpected surprise for me in Work for Change. Because like you said, it wasn't a part of our original vision. Like we didn't talk about that. When you came to me and said, hey, like right before we launched, you were like, I have this idea for this workshop. And I was like, okay, like I'll follow you into any path. I'm like, okay, if you believe in this, and you were like, and here's why I got this. And now, you know, and I was like, okay, like, let's do it. You know, and I would say the podcast featuring small business owners on our show has been for me like such a wonderful, inspiring experience. All of these moments where we get to see people's ingenuity and passion and ask that question of like, what made you take the plunge? And hear they're all different stories, of course, but there's that common thread of like, I always knew I was good at this. I always had this drive. It was just a matter of when, not if I was going to do it. And then, you know, kind of dovetailing that experience of supporting local businesses with our workshop. I think they sort of support each other, and we can draw on what we learned from our guests into that workshop, into, you know, and also you're a master facilitator. For those who haven't, you know, seen Kendra facilitate, and I don't just mean in a workshop, like you're really good at that workshop and training, but you also facilitate people. Like you're a people facilitator. So when we're in these workshops, you can kind of see obstacles, barriers, and challenges that people might be having. Like you can see what they're working through and say, okay, let's get this on the table. And let's put these where we need to put them so we can move you forward. So, and I've seen it happen. I've seen people have that moment where they were, you know, climbing up a tree, getting kind of freaked out about something. And then you kind of talk them back down and say, this is okay. This is all we need to do to get you to that next step. So
I think I really appreciate that, Kris. I think one of the talents that I have is that I try to make people comfortable saying what they don't want to say. So we can ask a straight up question like, you know, what do you think has been preventing you from, you know, XYZ? And we'll let them talk for 4 minutes and they really say a bunch of nothing, right? But behind everything that they say, I feel like I can see what's not being said. And then I can direct them and say, hey, you know, let's talk about this. And then they're sort of like, okay. But then when they talk about those things that are, you know, that they've kind of tried to hide behind the bushes, you know, that's the core of what will help them move forward. And then once they see that they are in a, if you will, a safe place, that we could talk about these things. And I'm not even talking about anything drastic or heavy or dramatic. It's just people have different limitations on themselves. And anytime they talk about limitations and challenges, it's just a vulnerable spot, no matter what that is. It could be, I'm not comfortable talking in front of people. Somebody can say that and it means nothing, but for someone else, it can be something that's like really hindering. So, you know, I think in our workshop, you know, we do a really good job of, you know, helping people in their discomfort, get through their discomfort so that we can really deal with those challenges and really mark what successes they can have even within the context of their challenges. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's a great format. So what's next for Work for Change? What do you see in the next 6 months and the next few years? What you got?
Well, one thing, I'm big on celebrations, right? And so, when we hit our 90 days, I put a big 90-day post out there, like, 90 days
Love it.
and 6 months. I mean, the reality is, and I think most people know this, is that, about 50% of small businesses don't last after 1 to 3 years, right? And then after 5 to 7 years, is if they're still, it's even less from that point. And so, I'm just like, wow, we're in here and we're doing this. And please, if you could check out our newsletter. We just released a newsletter that really has, like, just an overview of what we've done over the last 6 months. Kris has a wonderful piece on there on communication in the workplace, and some other features. And it's like marking the time, documenting and marking the time, and saying, like, hey, like, everything hasn't been perfect, but we're still here. We're still providing the business. Mm-hmm. People are still interested in us. And I see that as a success. So for moving forward, I do have some ideas for growth and expansion. One of the things, with the podcast, Kris, really quickly, one of the things that I love about our podcast, having the special guests and the small business feature, is that we get to learn so much from other people who have been doing this longer than us. I mean, we haven't interviewed anyone who's been less than 6 months. Yeah. And so that is another way, that we get mentorship. It doesn't have to be a long-standing relationship. It's just talking to different people about, their experiences. And so, so I do have some ideas for expansion and growth. I do have some philanthropic.
Yeah, philanthropic. Yeah, philanthropic. Big word for this early. Yeah, philanthropy.
I have some community-based ideas. I have some, some growth, some mentoring ideas. But the thing is, the reason why I thought about mentorship in that moment is really trying to figure out how much time and energy I spend on growing and solidifying what I have, right? What works well, versus putting effort and energy into the next step. And, just kind of figuring out what's the best thing to pursue, what's the best thing to build, what's the best thing to market, what's the best thing to network. So, so the thing is, like, when you start your business, you have a lot of ideas, like you have a lot of ideas, and you just have to figure out the timing for them. Now, some things like the Start Your Own Business workshop, we didn't even build that into the model, but it became so important, is central now. So that was sort of like a long way to say that I have some exciting ideas. I want to build more mentorship opportunities, more small business support, expanding, even our diversity of consultancy that we have within the company. Right now we have an executive assistant, so, just learning how to manage the work. So I'm still in the learning process, which I probably will never leave that.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to see where it's going to go, and, and how it evolves and grows. And you definitely have a really, really innovative vision, and I know it's going to be exciting. So, well, thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Thanks.
It was good to kind of look back, right? It was fun to kind of think about where we've been and where we're going. And I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. And so, as always, we post every day, but along with just the general, like, here are our services posts, we do keep, our followers up to date on what's next, what we're doing, what's upcoming. And so that you can be in the loop, please, we have several formats that you can follow. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, and of course you found us here on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, and share so that we can work to make the world of work better.